In this video, I'm going to show you how to use the CodeAcademy website. And using CodeAcademy is a great alternative so that you don't have to download any alternative coding software on your computer. So you'll be practicing using HTML online here. So using the link that I've provided, you can click the sign up button. And then where it says sign up using, you'll click the Google icon. And then you can select your Gmail. And here's the page that it brings me to. If it doesn't automatically bring you to the HTML page, what you can do is click on Find a Course. And for us, we want to do the Learn HTML course. If aside from this class, moving forward on your own, feel free to look at all of the other free courses that you can take. But for this week, we're going to do the Learn HTML. If it brings you to this page, you can click on I want to explore on my own. And then if you scroll down, you have the Learn HTML course. If for whatever reason you can't find the Learn HTML course here, you can simply type in HTML, and that should bring you to the Learn HTML course at the top. Okay, I am going to close this because it's asking me if I want to join the Pro version. Okay, and I'm going to click on the Start button. To save time in this video, I'm just going to show you the codes that you should be typing in here. So this is our editor, and the right side here is what our output or web page would look like using these codes. Okay, so take the time to read through this. Again, just to make sure that this video doesn't get too long, I'm only going to show you the codes that you should be typing. So the instructions say in the code editor, which is this section here, type your name between the H1 and \H1. Okay, and then I'm clicking the Run button. Okay, and here's my name, and this is the heading 1. I know I've done this correctly because I have a green check mark here. To move on to the next one, I'll click on Next. Again, make sure you read through this. There aren't any tasks in this specific one, aside from studying the diagram here. So I'll click on Next. And now we're going to look at the body of our fake web page. So the body element starts with body in these brackets. And the body element also includes the closing, so with the \body as well. Okay, and then for number 2, it says to add the following code between your opening and closing body tags. So in between my body, I'm going to insert a paragraph. So that's what the P is for. And to make it simpler, I'm going to copy and paste this. That way I can avoid any typos that I might be making. Then I'll click on Run. And so here is my body paragraph. And it's just this quote that I have here. Okay, I'll click on Next. Again, make sure that you read through the prompts here before doing the instructions. So the instruction says to add the paragraph below as a child of the div element. So here's my div element. It opens here and it closes here. So I'm going to add this paragraph just by copying it and pasting it between my div element. Okay, I'll then click on Run. And here's my second paragraph. Okay, next we're going to work with some headings. Again, make sure that you read through this, and then the instructions say, now that you know how to structure your HTML elements, we're going to add an H2 heading that says habitat. So if you take a look at this here and our output, H1, the brown bear, that's our heading 1. H2 is our second level heading, and H3 are our third level headings. So notice that our heading 1 is a lot more larger and more pronounced than heading 2 and heading 3. So our instructions say below the H3 heading, so below here beneath features, we're going to do an H2 heading that says habitat. Make sure to also do the closing. And let's run this. Okay, so here we have H1 heading, H2 heading, we have two H3 headings, and then we created another H2 subheading. And next it tells us below the habitat heading, so below this heading that we just created, we're going to do a third level or heading 3. And it says countries with large brown bear populations. Okay, I'll run it, and that way CodeAcademy can grade it for us. And it looks like this is correct. Okay, and then we're going to do another one, this time saying countries with small brown bear populations. And that's going to be another H3 heading. Okay, and I'll run it. Everything looks good here. And it says finally on the next line, add an H2 heading that says media. I'll run that. And here we have it. So right now it's really simple. We were only working with headings and not actual paragraph content in here. Okay, I'll click on my next button because there aren't any other instructions. Next, we're going to see another division element. And it tells us below our H1 heading. So here's our H1 heading. We're going to add an opening division tag. So div. And then it's going to close after the features H3. Yep, and I want to make sure I do put this in the correct place. So closing division. After you click on Run, you can then go on to number 2. So it says above the H2 element that says Habitat. So that's going to go here. I'm going to do an opening div tag. And then the closing is going to be after countries with small bear populations. Okay, next it says above the H2 media element. So that's right here. I'm going to do another opening tag. And then it says to place the closing div tag above the body. So all of this is, or these division tags are basically in the background. You'll notice that this hadn't changed when we look at it, but we have actually grouped everything together appropriately. So I'm going to click on Next. And the instructions say to add an ID attribute with the value introduction to my div tag that's below the brown bear H1 heading. So that's over here, and I'm going to edit this. So I'm going to press space, and the ID that I'm putting is equals, and then in quotation marks it says introduction. Okay, and then I'll click run, and number 2 says to add an ID attribute with the value habitat to the opening div tag that has the habitat H2 heading as a child. So in line 8 here, I have div. So again, I'll do equals, or ID equals, and this is simply habitat. And let's run it. Okay, finally for number 3, it says to add an ID attribute with the value media in the opening div. So that's going to be here. So that's space, ID equals, and then my quotation mark, and media, close quotation mark. Okay, and then I'll click my next button. Okay, again, make sure to read all of this, but the instructions say below the H2 element that says about brown bears. So my heading 2 element is here. I'm going to add opening and closing tags. And I am going to even copy and paste this. That's after my opening paragraph. And then I'll put a closing. And I'll run it to make sure that there's no errors here. And then for number 2, it says below my H3 element that says features. So here's my features element. We're going to add another paragraph element. So that's the P, and I'm going to copy and paste this. And then I'll do a closing paragraph. Okay, so now you can see how the paragraph element looks different than our headings. It's just normal size text here. Okay, finally under the H3 element that says countries with small brown bear populations, I'm going to add another paragraph element. And I'll do the closing as well. And let's run this. Okay, so it looks good here. We have the basics of a web page using HTML. So now I'll click the next button. So you notice that our text was pretty plain. It was just Times New Roman font. But now we can actually stylize some of our text. So right now it's not going to be too fancy, but at least we can see some bold. So the M tag or EM tag will normally show text as italics, and strong will make the text bold. So here it says in the first paragraph that starts the brown bear. So that's going to be this paragraph here. We want to emphasize the Ursus arctos using the M tag. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to do my opening M tag and my closing M tag. Okay, so you'll notice now when you view it, remember, as I've said, the M makes it italics. So this is italicized now. Now in the paragraph under About Brown Bears, we want least concern to be bolded, and that's by using the strong tag. So About Brown Bears, and let's see, least concern. So here's least concern. So in front of that, I'm going to do the opening strong tag. And then after the word concern, I'll do the closing. Okay, and notice that it's now bolded. Okay, next it says that we're going to use some line breaks here. Notice that we have a break in between our paragraph, or the first line, the second line, and in our third line here. And so let's see what this will look like. So it says to add 2 line breaks after the sentence that ends with least concern. So here is our least concern sentence. So I'm going to enter 2 of these. So that means an opening and a closing break, and then another opening and closing break, because this is 2 line breaks, which is equivalent to hitting the enter key twice. Okay, so now you'll notice that, again, as I've said, this is equivalent to hitting the enter key twice, and there's now spaces in between least concern and the second part of that paragraph. Okay, you can also do lists in here or using HTML. LI being the tag here. You'll also notice that you have a UL tag. Okay, for here, it says under the heading that says species, create an unordered list. So that means I'm going to use the UL tag. So it tells us that the UL element won't format it. So I'm just beginning here with the UL. So I'm going to look for species. And I'll start with UL. And I'll also do a closing for this. Now for the actual list items, that's where I'm going to use the LI tag. So LI, Arctos, and then a closing LI. My second list item is going to be Colorus. Oops, don't forget my tags. Okay, hopefully I typed everything else. Whoops, I forgot to write extinct. Okay, hopefully this was typed correctly. And let's see, we have Arctos. Oh, and I see what I did wrong. My closing UL should have been at the end. So that's a lot better. So my opening UL and then my closing UL is after my last list item here. But you'll notice that with that list item, it's now with bullets. In this section, we're going to look at ordered lists now. Okay, and notice with an ordered list, our bullets are numbered bullets rather than these solid round bullets. So for the ordered lists, we use OL instead of UL, but we still use the LI for our list items. So it says under the heading that says countries with large brown bear populations, so that's going to be here, we're going to add an ordered list. So remember that's OL, and then I'll also include the closing for my, for my ordered list. Okay, now I can add these items in my ordered list. Okay, I'm not going to make that same mistake twice. I am going to type in between my OL opening. I'll hit enter, and then I'll start with my first list item, which is Russia. I'll do the closing, and then same thing for the US. When I run it, hopefully it should all be correct, and it is in numerical order from 1, 2, and 3. Now let's take a look at some images here. And here's a link to an image that's already online. So it says under the media heading to, and we know about where the media heading to is because you can actually, scroll down here and look for the media heading. Sometimes it's a lot easier than looking in your code. So here I have the media heading, so H2. And it says to use the following URL as a source for the image. So hopefully you've read this, and you'll do image source equals, and then you're going to put in this website, and then with a closing and that bracket here. So img source equals, and I'm going to copy and paste this between the two quotation marks. Okay, and then remember that you do have to do a closing tag as well. Okay, and here is that image of the bear. Okay, we're almost done with this lesson. Next, we have to do an alternative text attribute. Okay, and so this deals with accessibility, and sometimes, you have people who might be visually impaired, and they actually have screen readers that can describe the images and the text to whoever's viewing the site. And so for accessibility purposes, we have to include an alt or alternative text to our image. And so it says to add the alt attribute to the image and include a description. And what we want to do is to make sure that the description matches this image. So here's my image source. And let's take a look at this. So we have everything here. So this number sign or pound sign, that stands for our link. So after the quotation mark, I'm going to type in Alt equals, and then in quotations, I'm going to just write a description that describes this picture. So this is just a picture of a brown bear. So you don't have to write it exactly as I have, but it is best that you do have something that accurately describes that picture. And normally, because, let's see if it actually works. No, it won't work right now because it's in the background. So if someone had a screen reader or something along that nature, it would actually tell the person who's viewing the website that this is a picture of a brown bear. Okay, so let's insert a video. We're going to use the video tag, and it says under the image. So here's our image. We're going to add the following video URL as a source. So we're going to start with video source equals. Okay, so notice that it's similar to our image, the IMG, except now we have video. Let's copy and paste that between the quotation marks. Okay, it didn't say to insert any sizing. So here you have the width and height of the video. So I'm just going to use the closing video tag now. And let's see what I might have done wrong here. So I see what happened. I forgot to do my closing for my video tag. So my opening, I forgot to put this sign here. So now when I run it, that should be correct. So be very careful about these because they're very tiny mistakes that even I make. Next, it says to define the width of the videos as 320 and the height as 240. Also make sure to include the controls attribute. Okay, so for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to copy and paste this. And that's going to go after the quotation marks. I'll put a space, and then I'll delete that extra sign. Okay, next it says in between the opening and closing. So in between here, we're going to add the phrase video not supported. And I'll make sure that there's nothing else that I need to type aside from video not supported. Okay, so here's now an example of the video. Okay, and here's a review of what we have done. So I'll click my next button. And then you can click on skip. And then you can click on start the next lesson. So the next video will be over the next lesson.